Welcome to this practice of embodied inquiry. So this is a process that I have over time developed utilizing a few different practices and tools. And the idea is bringing this concept of inquiry into the way that we may be believing certain thoughts about ourselves or others or life into the body. So some people may have done an inquiry process like Byron Katie's The Work, which is often a very mental process where we're looking at our stories about the world, our beliefs, and then we're starting to pick them apart. So this practice is inspired by a tantric teaching and an important tantric practice on the path where we start to question our stories and our beliefs about life to try to explore what is really true. In Tantra, the stories are called Vikalpas. So it's an important part of the work to start to explore what are our Vikalpas and how they are affecting us. And they're often also tied to Samskaras, which are emotional, energetic imprints kind of held within the body from past experiences. So that's why I found adding this embodiment work, which is more inspired from somatics and titration, it can help us look at the way that our beliefs and stories are tied to these kind of energetic contractions within the body. And in this practice, I want to encourage you to pick a single belief or thought or story and to explore it through your body. And what we're going to be doing is picking a story that we have. So I encourage you, when you're first doing this, to choose one that you maybe have about yourself and work with a self-belief. And you're going to first be feeling into that one. So a good example might be, I'm lazy. If you have maybe been told this a lot, if because of cultural conditioning or whatever, you've been made to believe this is a common thing that you might take on and create a story about who and what you are based on that. So I'm going to be then going into exploring it through my body of like, when I believe that thought, how do I move? How do I express? How do I feel? And then what we're going to be doing is trying to find something that's in a way an opposite, not in the opposite of I'm lazy equals I'm productive. Like, we're not going for an opposite like this, but something that is a meta truth that neutralizes this thought and story that you have. So for example, mine would be, instead of, I'm productive, would be that my worth isn't determined by how much I can produce or achieve. Or maybe it's something like, I am brilliant at resting and taking care of myself. So you want to find something that maybe feels a little edgy. Not something that you already easily believe, but something that maybe feels like a little bit of a stretch for where you're at right now. So if I maybe had a story that I'm unlovable because I haven't been in relationships, or my relationships haven't worked out, or whatever kind of situations, then, maybe it's like, I am love. I'm an embodiment of love. Love is all around me all the time, and I am love too. So I'll just give you a little example of what it might look like to bounce between two different poles in this, but every single time is going to look very different depending on the person, the story, but it's pretty typical that the thought that you're going to be exploring is maybe going to be something that is contracted, and that the opposite is going to be something that feels expansive. But this isn't always true. I've had a student before where their kind of more struggling story was something that involved feeling superior and felt quite like big. And then on the opposite side, there was more like humility. So the body posture was actually opposite. So just know that there can be a lot of different ways to express this. But an example might be, if I'm working with that one of like, I'm lazy, and along with that comes like, oh, you're good for nothing, you're not doing enough, you're not productive enough, you're a burden. Like, there's always a lot of different stories that can be attached to a single one. So when I go to embody that, then I know I feel that, oh, like I kind of contract and sink and my body posture flops and I feel this like defeated blah. So I'm going to really exaggerate that. I'm going to really lean into this blah. I might even just like really get on the floor and pull the face or something. So you want to exaggerate in this practice. And then the opposite then would be when I start opening up and there's this sense of, oh, I don't need to achieve or do anything. And I take care of myself. And I'm just going to repeat that and really see how my body wants to go. Maybe there's something even a little playful in my position. It feels more open in my body when I'm sensing into that. So you're going to be moving between the two a couple of times. And this really will work better if you exaggerate. So if you're just kind of going from this to this, there might still be some medicine you can get from this, but you'll get a lot more if you really try to exaggerate the position and go really into it. So the first step is to get clear on what is the story that is perhaps, like an inner critic voice or something that you're holding on to that you feel like is affecting you negatively in your life. And then to have a sense into what might be a meta truth or opposite of that is something that can neutralize it. So you might want to pause this now as you think about what your truth is going to be, and then come back when you have that. Okay, so now that you have your thoughts and your story that you're going to be exploring through your body, I invite you to have a space where you feel comfortable. It's best to maybe stand up so you can use your whole body if that feels good, but you can also be on the ground or sitting, but the more that you can move your body, the better with this practice. And whenever you feel ready, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze and come into a neutral kind of stance. And start to invite that your breath becomes a little bit deeper. If you're standing, let your feet be hip distance apart and your knees a little soft, and just feeling into this sense of being centered. You can connect to this line of energy that runs through your body from the crown of your head all the way through your torso and down and out the pelvic floor. And see how it feels to connect to that line through you. And you can feel that line of energy, the central channel, connects up into the sky and down into the earth. And maybe setting an intention for this practice. Inviting in some compassion and also self-care, knowing that you don't have to go incredibly hard or deep in this practice today if that doesn't feel right. You can just have a gentle exploration. It's not a competition. There's no rush. You can always come back and do this another time. And slowly we're going to begin to invite in that first thought, this story that you may be believing about yourself. And as you bring in the thought, I invite you to follow your body into a position that it wants to go into. And you can really exaggerate this. So if whatever you're believing feels like it's weighing you down and it feels heavy and it makes you contract, then you can really hunch over your shoulders, even curl up into a ball. Whatever your body feels like it wants to do, and you really lean into that thought. And remember to keep breathing as you do this and track the sensations in your body. Can help to make some sounds on the exhale to stay present. And just notice when you're in this state, what other thoughts come along with it. How do you want to act from this space? How do you relate to others from this place? So keep breathing and inviting yourself to just witness and explore what comes up when you allow yourself to go into this state. And then slowly we're going to begin to very slowly move towards the meta truth, this opposite thought. And you want to go so slow as you move out of that body position. Very slowly, noticing every moment in between. You're going to start to open up and follow that other thought. And allow your body to again express whatever that opposite is, whatever that statement is. How does your body want to be when it's saying this, when it's feeling this? Remember again to breathe really deep and full. And this can feel quite edgy, this opposite. This might feel even more challenging than going into the contracted state. So explore how it feels to open up, to try it on, to breathe into this possibility. And notice how you feel in this state and how you would interact with others from this state. As you take those deep breaths and stay with it, stay with whatever it is you're noticing in this space, you can keep repeating the words, the affirmation here. See if you can let it in a little bit more. Even if you don't fully believe it now, can you just rest into allowing it in a little bit more? And then we're going to again slowly move back into the original thought. So very slowly, once again, moving from that open state into the contraction. Letting your body start to move back into that position. Allowing your thoughts to change and to again go into that story. Breathing full and deep as you courageously go there. And while you're there, just observing your whole body. What else do you notice through your body? Is there anywhere that feels numb? Is there anywhere that feels really alive? And getting curious if there's anything about being in this state, in this contraction, in this story that feels familiar, maybe comfortable, maybe even enjoyable. Is there maybe a part of you that gets off or enjoys being in this collapsed state, that might get something out of it? And there's no judgment if this is the case. It's just an exploration. It's just a questioning. What feels familiar here? And you can really question, is this true? Do I really believe that this is true? And does my body believe that this is true? What is my body saying and what is my mind saying? Maybe you can even sense what your energy body is saying. Does it feel like truth? Taking a final few breaths here. And then again, zooming out, slowly, slowly moving back into that opposite, that meta truth. And really exploring what happens along the way as you slowly shift states. You can make sounds, you can breathe a little deeper. And notice how it feels to be again in this position now. Notice if there's any part of you that is resting into this statement, this truth, this other way of being. Does it feel like you can relate to it a little bit better this second time around, or not? And I invite you to scan your body and notice where you feel resistance to this, if there is any resistance at all. What part of you resists embodying this truth? Could this be just as true, if not more true, than that original story? Can you let yourself try it on, explore it, breathe into it? Taking a final few breaths in this position, see if you can take a little snapshot internally and soften into it a little bit more. If you feel any contraction in any part of your body, maybe your stomach's tensing or your jaw, or there's a blockage around your heart, see if in these final breaths, if you can just invite a little bit more softening to that space. And then we're going to come into a neutral stance, like how you began. And again, take a few breaths here. And now, while we've been doing this process, your awareness has been very in the experience, very in the body. So I invite you now to kind of zoom out a little bit and become this witness presence. From this space of a witness, what do you notice about this whole dance of these stories, of these beliefs? When you take a little distance, what do you see? Now finally, we're going to take a few breaths into our central channel, and I invite you to really bring in any charge, any aliveness, any stuckness, anything that you're holding onto from this practice. Invite it into this central channel, this line of energy between the crown of the head and the pelvic floor. So as you inhale, feeling as if there's this swirling vortex of golden light, and you're inviting any thoughts, stories, sensations, charge, you're inviting it to spiral down, down, down on the inhale, and up and releasing through the crown of the head on the exhale. Inhale, moves down, collecting like this vortex of energy down to the pelvic floor, even down into the earth. And exhale, washes up through the body, out through the crown of the head, into the space around you. Do this a few more times, feeling that all that charge, all that energy is just fuel for your aliveness. And for this final breath, see if you can just give a big exhale and really release everything. You can even shake your body a little bit, letting it all go. You can bring some touch to your body if that feels good now. You might want to give yourself like a squeeze, a hug. Maybe some tapping on your body if you enjoy that. Thanking your body for whatever it revealed to you. When you feel ready, you can begin to open your eyes. So a lot of different things can come up in this practice. For some people, maybe that was just an interesting exploration. For some people, maybe there's a lot moving. If there's a lot moving, I really recommend doing some journaling and exploring a little bit more. And if you need some aftercare, then maybe making yourself a nice tea, going sitting outside, putting on some music, having a dance, laying down, doing whatever you need to self-care and help integrate the experience. And this is just a little taster of the kind of work we do when we're exploring inquiry. And this is a huge part of the tantric path, is exploring the way that we've created stories and we've tried to create an identity around certain beliefs that we have about ourselves. And it's a way that we try to create this static identity of I am this, I am that, when in fact our nature is very fluid. So maybe sometimes I'm lazy, and sometimes I'm very productive, and sometimes I'm, very experiencing a lot of love, and other times I'm in my solo space, and, things are always fluctuating, but we can get over identified and really cling to certain stories about ourselves, which then can get us locked into a lot of internal suffering. So the idea of this practice is that you start to challenge some of those beliefs and open up to something that feels a little bit more expansive. If you struggle to find what that meta opposite could be, you're always welcome to maybe ask down below in the comments. Like, you can put what your story is, and people can come in and maybe suggest what an alternative might be, or you can ask a friend, or just try different things on. So you might do it with one opposite one time and then try something else another time. And yeah, the important thing here is that we're seeing, it's not to say that you need to all the time be feeling like I am an embodiment of love. The idea is that we open to that possibility that that could be just as much of a truth as the original thought of, that I'm unlovable, I am an embodiment of love, and love is all around me. And you start to feel like, okay, there's maybe a bit more truth on that side, and it starts to neutralize within us, and we see that there's this like full spectrum, and there's so much going on all the time, and we don't need to cling to any specific static thing. And maybe over time we can start to really explore what it's like to live from a place of trusting that I am an embodiment of love, and love is all around me. And when I approach life from that viewpoint, rather than from a viewpoint of I'm unlovable, then how do my relationships change? How does my day-to-day relating and self-care practice and all these different things that we're doing in life, like how does that change when I have one particular viewpoint versus another? So this is all what we're exploring here, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's all just a way of exploring what is really true, so that we're not just defaulting to believing that something's true just because we've been told it growing up, or someone else forced their beliefs about us onto us. So this kind of practice can be used a lot of different ways. I hope it gives you some inspiration, and feel free to come back and try it again another time, either with the same issue or with a different issue.